Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Joining us on the line now is Dr. Bernie Bulkin, OBE. He's worked in venture capital for 21 years, investing in both Silicon Valley and London, as well as being an angel investor. He's served on numerous company boards, from startups to large public companies. He's also founded, led and invested in some companies that have failed. His new book, Why Startups Fail, teaches you to avoid the traps on the path to commercial success. Welcome to the show, Bernie.
Glad to be here.
It's great to have you with us. So how did your journey in business start, would you say?
Well, in business, I started by, first of all, in my career, I was an academic originally, early years. And then I did some management roles in university. And one day I was recruited out of the blue by Standard Oil of Ohio to come and lead part of the research center. And I did that. I worked in various jobs in BP, so not a very entrepreneurial environment. For 18 years, I had various roles, including in the environmental side and so on. And then when I left, I thought, I want to find out how these venture capital guys do things, because I heard they do things differently. And so I started working with a group in Silicon Valley, and yeah, they did things differently, sometimes better, sometimes not so good.
And what does it mean to be a venture capitalist?
I think it means to invest in businesses that are at the early stage of their existence, that are inherently risky. And usually it means you're investing someone else's money, because most venture capitalists raise funds from wealthy individuals, from pension funds, other sources, and they trust you to invest it for them with the idea that they're going to make a return. So it's a kind of responsibility, because people have entrusted you with sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, and you're investing it in things that are inherently very high risk.
Yeah. So, I mean, $1 million question. How do you know what companies that you should take that risk on, and why would you not take a risk on another company? What kind of signs are you looking out for?
Well, most of these we're talking about technology related companies, some innovative technology. I start by asking the question, do I believe that this technology actually works? Or could be made to work? Because usually these guys have done something at a very small scale. Sometimes you're looking at things that are still in the laboratory, and they're talking about, okay, by 2 years from now, we'll have a big plant. So in our minds, we say not 2 years, but 4 years. But the real question is, will it work? And then the second question is, does the leadership team have the ability to go from where they are today to where they want to be, or where they need to be in a few years? So those are the two big things at the beginning. Does the technology work? And are these guys going to be able to deliver it? In between that is the question of, is this something, even if it works, is this something that the market really needs? Is it revolutionary? Is it evolutionary, which could be good? Maybe it's boring, but sometimes boring is not so bad. It's just a question of, is there somebody who's going to buy it? And by buy it, I mean, are there customers, whether they're businesses or individuals, who will buy this product at a price that allows you to eventually make money?
Yeah. Yeah, and that must be difficult to assess and work out. And I guess part of what you're saying in the book is sometimes it doesn't work out.
What I'm trying to say in the book is a version of what you just said. That is, today, if we look at the history of venture capital, Silicon Valley or London or other places, and by the way, there's lots of venture capital done in Germany and France and the Scandinavia, very active, in the Nordic countries, and in other parts of the world as well. What everyone believes is that 90% of the companies that are invested in will fail. And that's a staggeringly bad statistic. What I say is some of these failures, maybe a lot of these failures, are avoidable if you know what to do. And the whole of the book is about finding the places where failure usually occurs, learning from that, and thinking about how we can do things differently.
And you're looking at two different ways that it can fail, or people involved with the procedure. The people who are setting up the company and giving advice to them, the people who've created the startup, and also the people who are investing in the startup as well. You're looking at both.
Absolutely looking at both, because both have a lot of responsibility and accountability here. I talked about how the people investing have accountability to the people who have given them the money to invest. And I took that as a big responsibility, a weighty one, when I was doing this in Silicon Valley, and we had raised $600 million. So, a non-trivial amount of money to invest in a certain area. But of course, for the founders in the company, first of all, they've taken the money. And secondly, they're going to devote 110% of their effort for several years to try to make this work. And so they have a lot at stake, and they're giving up a lot of things to devote themselves heart and soul to the company for several years when they could be doing something else.
Yeah. And how is it very difficult to differentiate between people who have got a really good idea, people who've got ambition, people who've got drive, but for whatever reason, the product or business that they've created comes across, I guess, obvious to you that it's just not going to work?
I wouldn't say it's very easy, but it is possible to differentiate. The first thing to look out for, I would say, is this genuine? Because in this business, you see a certain number of frauds. There have been some well-publicized cases in recent years. The company Theranos that claimed to be able to do all the blood tests that we do normally with just a drop of blood, and then it turned out it was all a fraud. I talk about some other frauds in the book as well. So that's my first job, is to say, is this genuine, or is it a fraud, or is it the whole thing not a fraud, but maybe they have faked some of the data because they don't quite have the data yet, but they've made little drawings that look like the data. So because I'm a technically educated person, I can ask those questions. One of the dangers is that in the early days of Silicon Valley, most of the, and of really the creation of venture capital, which goes back 50 years or so, most of the things being invested in were electronics, and most of the people who were doing the investment were electrical engineers. And so they could ask these hard questions and evaluate the technology. But today, you often find lawyers. I have nothing against lawyers, but they can't ask a hard technical question. So they default to saying, well, is the person who's pitching this idea to me a good salesperson? Do they look like someone I would back? Or do they sound like that? And that's often not as good a way of sorting out the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine personality can come into it, which isn't, as you say, isn't necessarily a good thing. Somebody could have a great personality and a great sales pitch and come across really well, but actually they haven't got much to back it up. And on the other side, someone, you might not warm to them at all and they might not come across very well, but actually the more you look into their product, it seems really viable. Does that happen much?
It does happen. One of the things that happens with people pitching these companies to you is that they're very arrogant sometimes. And sometimes the venture capitalists, who are themselves often very arrogant, think, oh, this is the kind of guy, I like this guy. He seems like me.
Yes.
So, and in both cases, the arrogance may be unjustified.
Yeah.
So that's one way that this fails. Sometimes the guy is the person doing the pitching, male or female, is too shy, too timid. But the idea, as you imply, is really great. And then sometimes you have to say, well, I love this idea. You don't really know how to run a company, but I can get you help. And there have been many examples of people who were brought in to lead a company and help the founders who are too technical turn it into a business. And that's sometimes a good way out of this dilemma that we were talking around.
Yeah. And what are some of the biggest traps that people fall into with a startup, the people who have started the company themselves? What are some of the pitfalls, do you think?
Well, let's try a few. One is to go from wherever you are as an early stage, whether it's a lab or just a software product that you've tested on your machine and shown to a few geeky friends, to a real product that can be sold and used by lots of people. Whatever you're going to do, it takes a lot of engineering. And engineering is very different from science, or for invention, for making one of something. So you have to appreciate the quality and quantity of engineering that you need in order to do this. I was listening to some people talking about a company one time, and it was a biotech thing. And I said to them, look, the idea is great. We love this, but you guys are three biologists, and you have no idea how to turn this. You have no engineers on the staff. And they said, oh, that's right. And as soon as we get this funding from you, we're going to hire an engineer. And I said, an engineer. Now, if DuPont or BASF in Europe were at the same stage as you, and they were going to turn this into a commercial process, they would have a team of 200 engineers.
Gosh.
Chemicals, safety, cost estimation, controls, environmental, mechanical engineers, all of these different things that are needed. And the quality of those people would be greater than the one person that you think you're going to hire. So you have to appreciate the quality and quantity of engineering that it takes. And by the way, it's different, but that's also the case for software. Because we all know that software has to be reliable when it's being used by idiots, not by your friends who don't mind tinkering around with things and so on. And you have to see that problems that occur once every 100 million times the software is run don't mess it up. And that's a big software engineering problem.
But how do startups compete with that? They're not going to hire a team of 200 engineers. So how do they get round that?
How do they get around it is a tough question. So first thing is, I think it's important, or very much useful in any case, to be located someplace where there's a lot of engineering around. If you're in a very rural, isolated place, or in a community that has lots of theaters but no engineers, you're not going to be able to hire the people. Engineers do move, and they like the challenge of working in startups, but you have to be someplace where there are people, and they won't relocate 500 miles or kilometers to get there. So being around the right sort of area, and that's why clusters become important. Example would be Lund in Sweden, where around the university there and industrial park, there are 200 companies, tech companies, and lots of engineers, and they're moving from one to the other. And that's where Nokia started, and Tetra Pak was there, and so on. So it's a big engineering center. Likewise, Cambridge in the UK. You need to be in that sort of place. Second possibility is there are firms that do outsourced engineering. And if you can convince one of them that you have a great idea, they can help you supplement your workforce and even show you how to do things cheaper and more professionally.
Wow, amazing. Some great tips there.
Yeah. So, those are some of the things that are important. But you still need the support of a board. Your investors can help you out. The investors can see what you need, and they should be realistic. They can insist that you have a good financial plan, that you're seeing when you're going to get to the point where you don't run out of cash, because running out of cash is the way you die.
Yeah. And what are some of your biggest lessons that you've learned over the years as an investor through mistakes that you've made?
I think one of them is to always have a realistic plan. It's fine to be ambitious, to try to get things done faster, but recognize from the start that this is going to take longer than people say it's going to take. And so if you don't want to run out of cash, don't believe the sales projections that they give you. Say, well, what if it takes twice as long? How will we get there? How will we still, be in business long enough to be successful? Even companies like Amazon, which became one of the greatest successes, almost ran out of cash in its early years. So the board needs to be realistic and help the investors in that. Second thing is, every founder, chief executive that I've known has gaps in things that, both in their skills, business skills and so on, and competencies. Competencies are different from skills. Skills may be, okay, how do I manage cash and various business things? Skills, competencies could be things like, how do I build a great team? How do I hire people and mold them into a great team and keep them aligned? It's my job as an investor to recognize the limitations of the leaders and to try to coach them, provide them help, etc., to see them through and develop them as leaders, fill the skills gaps and develop the competencies.
Yeah. Great. Well, if people want to get a copy of the book, it's called Why Startups Fail, Avoiding the Traps on the Path to Commercial Success. It's available on our website, TRE.radio, and it's by Bernie Bulkin, who we've been chatting with today. Bernie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Great conversation.